Granny posts a wedding picture on her Facebook page that grabs the attention of one of the world's richest men. Ida Wilde is an 83-year-old Scottish woman. It won't be an exaggeration if I call her the lifeline of her family. Ida, also a great-grandmother, is loved and respected by everyone. She is the favorite grandmother in her neighborhood. The old woman is known for her warm nature. She might look an ordinary person, but the woman had an unforgettable past that had left a deep impact on her. It won't be wrong to say that an incident from her past had very much shaped her personality. The woman was only 10 years old when she learned a hard truth about life. How would you feel if one fine day a couple of strangers come to your house and start calling it theirs? Now you would have to share all your stuff from your favorite toy to your bedroom. That is what happened with Ida. The little girl was all surprised when her mother told her that those two strangers were going to live with them. In the beginning, it was obviously difficult for Ida, but she soon adapted to it very soon. It all happened in 1947. Her mother had brought in two unknown kids with her. Ida had never seen them before. That day she met Asghar and Kuslam. They had come to stay with her. Ida, a little girl at that time, did feel a bit uncomfortable but soon became friends with them. Their family had grown larger now. Fortunately, the unexpected development did not bother anyone. But why had they come to live with her? Asghar and Kuslam Patel belonged to a very wealthy family. The siblings had come from Bombay, India. Things had worsened in the country as the state was partitioned into two different countries, namely India and Pakistan. The state was free now but got divided into two nations. No wonder the decision was followed by chaos and unrest all across. Separation caused refugee crisis all around, with Hindu and Muslims running here and there. This is unfortunate that the population had not been given no time to prepare before the decision came to the light. The Hindus living in Pakistan moved to India and the Muslims who were residing in India relocated to Pakistan. Asghar's father, who was living in Bombay with his family at the time of disorder, had to do something to protect his family. The situation was worsening day by day. All of the country was affected by the split, and so no city or state was safe. He had to look for a way out. After pondering for some while, the man decided to send his kids out of the country, but he was still not sure about the country. The man discussed his dilemma with one of his friends, who told him about a guest house in Glasgow, Scotland. The guest house had taken in many international students. His friends suggested him to put his children in that house. Asghar contacted the proprietor in hope of getting some help. There was no way he was going to let anything destroy his kids' future. Not really helpful. He talked to the guest owner and explained his problematic situation. Whereas the owner sympathized with his situation, she was still unsure about taking in 4 foreign kids. She made no attempt to hide her dilemma. However, Asghar's father had made up his mind. Asghar flew down to Scotland with his children. He went up to the guest house and requested the owner to let his children stay. At that time, the owner could not say no, as the kids, who were 4 in number, were standing at the door of the guest house. Though she had to say no, there was no place for all the 4 kids in her guest house. Asghar's father was not going to take back his kids to India, nor the owner had enough space in her guest house. What could they do? After some pondering and wondering, the owner came up with a solution. She told Asghar's father that 2 kids can live with her and the other 2 would go with Greta Morland, her niece. Greta took in Asghar and her sister. The woman herself was a mother to a girl, Ida. Asghar and his siblings were of the same age group. No wonder they all became thick friends in a few days only. Ida was extremely happy about finding new friends in Asghar and his siblings. The 4 foreign siblings did not take long to adapt to the European culture. But before that, they had become an inseparable part of the Scottish family. It didn't seem they had come from a foreign land and had different cultures. They mixed up very well with their new family. During the beginning of their stay in Scotland, Asghar Patel and his siblings used to speak Urdu, but as time passed they began to pick up English. Now, they would use Urdu very rarely. Not only that, but they also started addressing their Scottish caregivers as mum and dad. It was after some time they learned to call them aunt and uncle. Asghar stayed with the family until he turned 12. Although his sister and one of his brothers had gone back to India, Asghar and his older brother chose to stay in Scotland. Asghar liked staying with the family. However, the boy had to get separated from the family when his father enrolled him in a boarding school in London. That marked the end of his 6 years-long stay with the family. Even though after shifting to London he stayed in touch with the family, he would call them every now and then. However, with time, he got busy with his studies and the calls became less frequent. And after completing his senior Cambridge, Asger said his final goodbye to Ida and her family at Glasgow railway platform. The boy was going back to India for good. Ida was an emotional moment for his Scottish family, especially for Ida. The girl had developed a very strong bond with Asger. He was not only her brother but also a best friend. So, that day she did not only lose a brother but a best friend too. Asger and his siblings' stay in her house brought lots of changes in her. She learned to share and care. If you ask her, those were perhaps the best days of her life. That was the most dynamic phase as she got to learn about different cultures. Life is all about changes. Ida's family moved to a different place and she got super busy with her own life. The woman got married in her mid-20s. Soon after, she became a mother that doubled her responsibilities. She never had time to think about his brother. However, it doesn't mean she didn't miss him. Months turned into years and years changed into decades. The woman had gone through many transformations. She had become a wife, mother, grandmother, and now a great-grandmother. The memories were fading, but feelings were still the same. Though Ida had grown old, she was a woman of today's time. She was active on Facebook and other social networking sites. She used to post as well. The woman had posted many pictures of her and her family on her page. Little did she know that all it would take is a wedding picture to turn her life upside down. The woman had gone to attend a close relative's wedding. She even posted some of the wedding pictures on her Facebook page and received many heartwarming comments. However, with all those comments, she also received a message from a stranger. Change is the only constant thing in one's life. Some changes could be small and indiscernible, whereas some changes are big enough to redefine one's life. Ida had gone through one big change when Asger and his sibling came to stay with her, and had another big change when they went back to their country, leaving her behind. She reminisced, "I got a message on my iPad asking, 'Are you Ida Morland?' Morland was her middle name. She had adopted her husband's surname after the marriage. Why a stranger was so interested in knowing her identity? There was only one way to find out. She replied to the text. She soon learned that the stranger who had texted him was none other than Asger. There were many surprises waiting for her. Asger, whom she had said goodbye about 60 years ago, was back. He was now a multimillionaire who held 45th position in Forbes' richest man. There was a lot to catch up on for them, Ida said. Then out of the blue I got a message on Facebook from Asger and it was just lovely to hear from him again. I couldn't believe he had spotted my photograph after all these years. It was a miracle, really. They got reunited because of a Facebook post. It is amazing. Asger had been searching for his Scottish family for long. I was scanning Facebook and happened to see the photo and profile of one Ida Wilde. Her face looked familiar, but she used to be Ida Morland. I thought, okay, let me see if she is the same Ida. He dropped her a text in hope of getting a reply. I asked her, "Are you Ida Morland?" Then she got back. It was an astonishing moment. Did they feel any awkwardness while talking to each other after such a long time? Ida replied, "It wasn't strange or awkward and we chatted away like two old pals. He was so happy to finally find his Scottish family again." She continued, "He asked if I remembered us all going to Ayr on holiday and away to Tignabuch. It was like we'd never been apart. All those memories had come back." The 83-year-old lady still remembers the time when Asger had come to stay with them. Coulson got homesick and wanted to go home, but Asger would have lived here forever. He quickly became part of the family. We had a little dog called Sparky and he loved playing with him. We also went on trips to the seaside and he loved seeing new places. It was great having them to stay and they were happy kids. She also mentioned how Asger had begun to call her parents mom and dad. She reminisced, "He did call my parents mom and dad to begin with, but that was quite embarrassing lots of times. And my mom said to him, 'Look, Asger, you've got your own mom and she won't be pleased, so you better call us aunt and uncle.'" She further added, when his mom came over to visit he forgot how to speak Urdu, and she couldn't speak English, so they just waved at each other. She obviously missed her son and Asger was happy to see his parents too. But a lot of time had passed and he'd settled into a new life, so it must have been quite difficult for his mom to see. And like this 5 years went by. Although he loved his parents very much, when it was time for him to return home he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay with us. She admitted, "It wasn't an easy decision, but we knew he had to leave to be with his own family. Ida and her family were too sad." She explained, "We were heartbroken when he left," Ida explained. "For 5 years we had been brought up as brother and sister, and it was sad to lose him. However, Asger and Ida tried to stay in contact by exchanging letters and cards. Ida recalled, "We kept in touch for a while, but we moved around and so did his family. Soon the cards stopped, but I often wondered where he ended up." Since then, whereabouts of Asger remained a mystery to her. Asger, living on the other side of the world, had still not forgotten them. He tried to contact his Scottish family, but the family had moved away to some other place. Ida said, "Asger thought he would never find me until the photo went online. It's amazing he made the connection, and I'm so glad he got in touch. But as they say, miracles happen when you least expect it." Asger said, "She meant a lot to me, but I had lost contact with them later. I always wished to see them." These two had a very special bond. Asger considered Ida her sister. The man had lost her sister about 60 years ago, but now they were reunited, all thanks to Asger's perseverance. Asger flew over to Ida's place to meet her. "I went to London, and from there I went to Glasgow by train. I met an old friend who drove me to Ayrshire in Scotland, which is 1 hour from Glasgow. The two had been seeing each other after 60 years. Still, nothing had changed between them." Ida explained, "We chatted away for ages and he told me all about his family. He wants to fly me to Dubai to meet them, and he's coming back to visit again next year. We keep in touch now, and it's just wonderful to have Asger back in my life after so many years apart." Asger had a deep attachment for Ida. He said, "She was my sister since I was 6. We lived together for about 6 years. Those were sad moments for Asger." He further said, "She suddenly went out of my life and suddenly I got her back." Ida, who was astonished on knowing that Asger had grown into a rich man now, said, "I just couldn't believe it. He's done so well for himself, and he's still such a genuine and lovely person." The woman was proud of her foster brother. She said, "I'd said goodbye to a wee boy, and now he was returning a hugely successful multimillionaire. It was surreal." Asghar Patel, the multimillionaire, had done all in his power to find out his lost family, but got nothing. However, one day while casually scanning for the name Ida on Facebook, came across his long-lost sister. Isn't it amazing? Ida, who had no hopes of reuniting with her brother, received a message from him after 60 years. Even the time and the place could not separate them.